Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the command center window, watching Earth's orbital stations explode one by one. The blue marble that had been humanity's home for thousands of years was now under attack. 12 different alien species had joined forces to destroy everything humans had built in space. The screens around him showed bad news from every direction. The defense satellites were gone. The moon bases had fallen 3 hours ago. Now the massive alien ships were moving toward Earth itself. "Admiral, we've lost contact with Station Alpha," reported Commander Lisa Wong from her position at the communications console. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the fear in her eyes. Jake nodded grimly. He had expected this. The Galactic Council had given humanity an ultimatum just 2 weeks ago. They called humans too dangerous, too aggressive, too unpredictable. They said human technology was advancing too fast. They demanded complete surrender. The human government had refused. Now they were paying the price. "How many ships do they have?" Jake asked. "Over 2,000, sir. They're from every major council species. The Kalani brought their dreadnoughts. The Vorthak have those energy weapons that cut through our shields. The Nexeri brought their bioships." Jake watched a human destroyer take on 3 alien cruisers. The destroyer fought bravely, but it was overwhelmed. Its shields failed, and enemy fire tore through its hull. Jake had served with the captain of that ship, a good man with a family on Mars. "Sir, we're getting emergency signals from the ground," another officer reported. "They're targeting major cities. New York is gone. London is burning. Beijing just went dark." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Billions of innocent people were dying down there. Men, women, children who had never wanted war with anyone. All because the aliens feared what humanity might become. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Kalani flagship," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." A massive alien face appeared on the main screen. The Kalani looked like giant beetles with too many eyes. This one wore the symbols of a supreme commander. "Human Admiral," the alien said in broken English, "your resistance is pointless. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to live as servants. Continue fighting, and you will all die." Jake stepped forward. "We will never surrender. You want to see how dangerous humans can be? Keep attacking our home. You'll learn." The alien clicked its mandibles in what might have been laughter. "You have no ships left. Your defenses are broken. Your planet burns. What can you possibly do?" Jake smiled coldly. "We'll do what humans do best. We'll survive. We'll adapt. And then we'll make you regret this day." The alien cut the transmission. Jake turned to his staff. "Lisa, activate the evacuation protocols. Get our scientists and military personnel to the hidden bunkers. Danny, start the ship modifications we discussed. If we're going to fight a guerrilla war, we need ships that can hide." As the orders went out, Jake looked back at Earth. The planet still turned, still blue and green in places, but now with fire and smoke covering large areas. The aliens thought they had won. They thought humanity was finished. They were wrong. Jake had spent years studying the history of human warfare. He knew about the American revolutionaries who beat the strongest empire on Earth. He knew about small groups who held off massive armies through cunning and determination. Humans had always been at their most dangerous when cornered. The Galactic Council was about to learn that lesson the hard way. "Sir, the last defense platform is down," Lisa reported. "Good," Jake said quietly. "Now we can start the real war." 6 months after Earth's fall, Admiral Jake Morrison crouched behind a broken asteroid, watching an alien convoy pass by. The ships were huge and slow, carrying supplies to the Council occupation forces on Mars. Perfect targets. His uniform was patched and dirty now. His face had new scars. The war had changed him from a polished officer to something harder, something the aliens hadn't expected. "Target confirmed, sir," whispered Lieutenant Commander Lisa Wong through his helmet radio. She was hidden 3 kilometers away on another asteroid. 12 cargo ships, 4 escorts. Jake smiled grimly. Danny, are your modifications ready? Chief Engineer Danny Patterson's voice crackled through the comm system. The Phantom-class ships are as ready as they'll ever be, sir. Shields from the Kalani, cloaking tech from the Nexari, and our good old human weapons. These ships had once been simple human mining vessels. Now they were something new, something that bent the rules of space warfare. The aliens never expected humans to take their technology and make it better. Sarah, status on the escape route? Jake asked. Navigator Sarah Bell checked her instruments. Clear path to Base 7, sir. The Council patrol won't reach this sector for another 6 hours. Jake took a deep breath. His small fleet of captured and modified ships was all humanity had left in this sector. 30 vessels against an enemy that numbered in the thousands. But humans had learned something important. Numbers didn't always win. All ships, this is Phantom 1. Light 'em up. The human ships dropped their cloaking fields and attacked. Energy beams and missiles struck the convoy before the aliens could react. Jake's ship dove between 2 cargo vessels, its guns tearing through their hulls like paper. The alien escorts tried to respond, but the humans were already moving. They had studied alien tactics for months. The Council forces always formed up in neat formations. They always followed their protocols. Humans didn't. Phantom 6, Watcher 6, Lisa warned. An alien fighter was trying to get behind Jake's wingman. Got it, came the reply from Captain Mike Carter. His ship spun in a way that should have been impossible, the gravity compensators straining. The alien pilot couldn't follow the move. Carter's guns found their target. The battle lasted 15 minutes. When it was over, all 12 cargo ships were destroyed. The escorts were fleeing. The humans had lost only one ship, and its crew had ejected safely. Jake watched the alien supplies burn in space. Food, weapons, replacement parts for their ships. All gone. The occupation forces on Mars would have to make do with less now. Good work, people, he said over the general comm. Let's get home. As they flew toward their hidden base, Jake thought about how much had changed. Before the war, he had been a traditional officer. He followed the rules, planned carefully, engaged the enemy in proper formations. Now he led a group of space pirates. Pirates who hid in asteroid fields and attacked from ambush. Pirates who stole alien technology and turned it against its makers. The Council had called humans too aggressive, too unpredictable. Maybe they were right. The hidden base was carved into a dead asteroid, hidden by every stealth system they could get their hands on. It was home to 200 humans now. Pilots, engineers, medics, scientists, all refugees from Earth, all burning for revenge. As Jake docked his ship, he saw Dr. Maria Santos waiting for him. She had been studying the alien prisoners they sometimes took, learning about their psychology, their cultures, their weaknesses. Success? She asked. Always, Jake replied. The aliens are starting to learn. They escort their convoys better now. They change their routes more often. Maria nodded. But you're adapting faster. Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens thought they had won. They thought humanity was broken. They were about to discover they were very wrong. Dr. Maria Santos finished reviewing the captured alien files and looked up at Admiral Jake Morrison. Her face was tired but excited. For 3 months, she had been studying the psychology of their enemies. Now she had found something important. Jake, I know what we need to do, she said. Bullets and bombs won't win this war. We need to make them fight each other. Jake leaned forward in his chair. The small briefing room was crowded with his top officers. Lisa Wong, Danny Patterson, and communications expert Ryan Burke all waited to hear what Maria had discovered. The Council isn't as united as they pretend, Maria explained. The Kalani and the Nexari have been enemies for decades. They only work together because they both hate us more. But that hate isn't permanent. Ryan Burke pulled up a new display. I've been listening to their communications. Maria's right. The species don't trust each other. They argue about who gets which territories after they beat us. Jake nodded slowly. He had been wondering why the aliens sometimes attacked differently. Now he understood. They weren't one big army. They were 12 different armies forced to work together. "What do you suggest?" he asked. Maria spread out her notes. "We create propaganda. Not for humans. For them. We remind the Kalani that the Nexeri killed millions of their people 50 years ago. We tell the Zephyrians that the Council plans to take their mining worlds. We make each species remember why they don't like the others." "And how do we do that?" Lisa asked. Ryan smiled. "Leave that to me. I've been breaking into their communication networks for months. I can make their own news systems carry our messages. They'll think it's coming from other Council species." Over the next few weeks, Ryan worked his magic. Strange messages began appearing on alien networks. Videos that reminded the different species of old wars, broken promises, and stolen territories. The messages looked real because they used actual historical footage. Jake watched the results from his command center. The first sign was small. A Kalani fleet changed course to avoid flying through Nexeri space. Then a Zephyrian governor publicly complained about Kalani forces occupying his territory. "It's working," Danny reported. "The aliens are starting to question each other's moves. Some of their joint patrols have broken up. The Kalani don't want to share intel with the Nexeri anymore." But the real breakthrough came when Ryan intercepted a secret message from Vorthek Command. He called the senior staff to the briefing room immediately. "You need to hear this," he said, and played the recording. The voice was clearly Vorthek, speaking to his own people. "The Kalani grow too powerful in this alliance. After we defeat the humans, we must ensure they do not become the dominant species. Prepare contingencies for their removal from Council leadership." Jake stared at the speakers. "They're already planning to turn on each other." "Gets better," Ryan said. "I found similar messages from 4 other species. They're all planning to stab the others in the back once we're gone." Maria was taking notes quickly. "This gives us options. We can leak these messages to the right people. Imagine if the Kalani heard that recorded Vorthek message." Jake stood up and paced. "Do it. Let them suspect each other. But be careful. If they trace the leaks back to us." "They won't," Ryan assured him. "I'm making it look like their own security is compromised. Each species will think one of the others hacked their systems." 2 weeks later, the results exceeded their hopes. 3 Council species pulled their ships back from human resistance zones to watch their supposed allies. The Kalani and Vorthek nearly came to blows over a supply depot. Jake watched the alien news feeds with satisfaction. The mighty Galactic Council was showing cracks. Small ones, but growing. "Phase 1 complete," he announced. "Now we move to Phase 2. Direct contact with potential allies." The message came from deep space, encrypted in a code that Ryan Burke had never seen before. It took him 3 days to break it. When he did, he rushed to find Admiral Jake Morrison. "Sir, we have a problem. Or maybe an opportunity," Ryan said, out of breath. Jake looked up from the star charts he was studying. His latest raids had pushed deeper into Council territory. Each success made him more daring. "What is it?" "Remember Captain Susan Mitchell, the one who went down with the orbital station above Earth?" Jake's face darkened. Susan had been his friend. Her loss had hit him hard. "She's dead, Ryan. I saw her station explode. That's what we thought. But she's alive. And she's not alone." Ryan played the decoded message. Susan's voice filled the room. Older, harder, but definitely hers. "If you're getting this, then some of you survived. I'm on Kepler 822 with 40 other humans. We were prisoners, but we escaped during a Valdari revolt." "Yes, I said Valdari. The reptiles the Council conquered 50 years ago. Turns out they're not too happy about being slaves." Jake grabbed the radio. "Can we respond?" "I already have. It'll take 2 weeks for the message to reach her." 3 weeks later, Another message arrived. This time, it included coordinates for a meeting. Jake took only 2 ships. Lisa Wong commanded the second vessel. They flew carefully, avoiding council patrols, using every stealth trick they had learned. The meeting point was an abandoned mining station in neutral space. As they approached, a ship dropped its cloak. It was unlike anything Jake had seen. Part human design, part alien technology, but adapted for stealth and speed. This is Captain Susan Mitchell, aboard the free ship Logan. Permission to come aboard. Jake smiled for the first time in weeks. Permission granted. Susan looked older when she materialized on the bridge. She had new scars and a harder edge, but her eyes still held the fire Jake remembered. "You're supposed to be dead," he said. "So are you," she replied. "The council announced your death months ago." They sat in Jake's cabin, sharing reports. Susan explained how she and other survivors had been taken to prison worlds, how the Valdari resistance had helped them escape. "The council has enemies inside its own borders," she said. "The Valdari, the Corvin, the Lesser Hives, all species that were forced to join. They'd been waiting for a chance to fight back." Jake leaned forward. "How many?" "Hard to say. The Valdari have maybe 50 ships, small ones, but fast. The Corvin control 3 systems that the council thinks are loyal. They've been secretly building weapons." Lisa joined them, bringing Danny Patterson and Dr. Maria Santos. Susan shared intelligence that made their eyes widen. "The council moves prisoners through Jump Station Beta 7. Susan explained. "Thousands of humans, plus other species they want to relocate. Minimal defenses because they think it's too far from any threat." Jake studied the data. "A rescue mission. Better than that. I have contacts there. We could hit the station, free the prisoners, and escape before the council responds. The freed prisoners would join our cause, and the Valdari would help us." Maria looked worried. "It's a trap." Susan shook her head. "I've made 3 successful raids with the Valdari. They hate the council more than anyone. Their commander, Sithkar, has offered us intelligence on council fleet movements." Jake made his decision. "Set up a meeting with this Sithkar. If we can trust the Valdari, we double our effective fleet size." 2 days later, they met the Valdari commander in an asteroid field. Sithkar was 7 feet tall, with scales like armor and eyes like amber chips. His ship was sleek and deadly, clearly designed for hit-and-run tactics. "Humans," he hissed, the translator making his words understandable. "You fight like we do. Good. The council believes they broke our spirit. They were wrong." Jake extended his hand. After a moment, Sithkar took it with a clawed hand. "Equal partners. Equal partners," Jake agreed. "Now, tell me about this prison station." Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching 60 ships prepare for battle. Half were human vessels, patched and modified for war. The other half belonged to his alien allies. Valdari ships moved like knives through space, while captured council vessels flew beside them. Today they would hit the Galactic Council where it hurt most. The supply depot at Kepler 442 bits was massive, storing resources from 100 conquered worlds. The council thought it was safe, hidden deep in their territory. They were wrong. "All ships report ready," Lisa Wong announced from the communication station. Jake nodded to Sithkar, the Valdari commander whose ship flew next to his. Through the video link, the big reptile showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "The scouts confirm minimal defenses," Sithkar hissed. 12 patrol ships, a few defense platforms. They do not expect us." Jake had planned this attack for weeks. Captain Susan Mitchell had provided the intelligence. Her human survivors on various worlds had mapped the base's defenses. The Valdari had tracked guard rotations. Everything was ready. "Begin attack," Jake ordered. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace just outside the depot's sensor range. Immediately, the plan went into action. Half the ships attacked from above, drawing the defenders up. The other half waited below. Jake led his group straight at the main storage complex. The depot was huge, built into a captured asteroid. Docking bays covered its surface like a metal rash. "Defense platforms are firing," reported Danny Patterson, his voice calm despite the explosions outside. Jake's ship shook as enemy fire hit the shields. But the human vessels weren't alone. Veldari ships moved around them like deadly dancers, their weapons cutting through anything in their path. "First storage complex breached," announced Captain Mike Carter. His team was already inside, downloading data and stealing everything they could carry. The alien defenders tried to fight back, but they were confused. They had expected pirates, maybe a small raid, not a full battle fleet with alien allies. Jake watched a council frigate try to ram his ship. At the last second, a Veldari vessel appeared from nowhere, tearing the frigate apart with focused energy beams. "Second complex secured," came another report. "Holy hell, Admiral, you need to see this." Jake transferred to Landing Bay 6, where his boarding teams were working. What he saw made him angry. The storage bays didn't just hold military supplies. They held prisoner barracks. Thousands of beings from dozens of species, all forced to work as slaves. "Free them all," he ordered. Susan Mitchell's voice came through his radio. "Jake, we found the main control center. The enemy is trying to wipe their databases. Stop them." "Already on it. But this is bigger than we thought. They have supply lines to every council world. Jump coordinates, timing schedules, everything." Jake smiled grimly. This intelligence was worth more than all the stolen supplies. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the depot was in human hands. 12 council ships were destroyed, and countless supplies were being loaded onto Jake's ships. But the real victory was the intelligence they had captured. Star charts, supply schedules, military codes. The council had kept everything in this one place. "What's our next target?" asked Lisa. Jake looked at the data Susan's team had recovered. One file caught his attention. The council was planning something called Final Solution Protocol for all conquered species. "We need to warn our allies," he said. "All of them. The Corvin, the Lesser Hives, everyone the council has enslaved." Sith Kar's eyes glowed with hatred. "What does this protocol involve?" Jake's voice was cold. "Population reduction. They plan to kill 90% of every conquered species, including us." The Veldari commander's claws extended. "Then we must move faster." Jake nodded. "We will. The council thinks they've won, but they just gave us everything we need to destroy them." Outside the viewport, freed prisoners were boarding ships bound for safety. The counter-offensive had begun. The recording played throughout the galaxy. Admiral Jake Morrison had made sure of that. In the video, council leaders discussed the Final Solution Protocol like they were planning a simple business deal. "The humans will be reduced to 1% of their current population," the Kalani chairman had said. "Other conquered species will be allowed to keep 10%. This is generous." Within hours, the galaxy changed. 3 council species withdrew their fleets immediately. The Arachnid Collective announced they would no longer participate in genocide. The Christine Union recalled their ships to defend their own territories. The Methani Shoals declared complete neutrality. Jake watched the reports from his command ship. Around him, his staff looked stunned. They had hoped the recording would cause some trouble. They hadn't expected this. Half their alliance just collapsed, Lisa Wong said in amazement. Dr. Maria Santos pulled up tactical displays. "The remaining council forces are reorganizing. They're pulling back to defend key systems." Sith Kar's face appeared on the communication screen. The Veldari commander looked pleased. "My people are calling this the Great Awakening." Even species still loyal to the council are asking questions. "What about our allies?" Jake asked. "The Corvin have revealed themselves. 20 systems, 50 ships. The Lesser Hives are moving. They control crucial mining worlds that the council needs." Jake nodded. The intelligence from the depot was paying off. They knew which worlds were important, which could be defended, which should be hit hard. "Sir, incoming transmission," announced Ryan Burke. "It's from Admiral Chen Wei." Jake smiled. David Chen had been his classmate at the academy. He was supposed to be dead, killed when Luna Base fell. David's face appeared on screen. He looked tired but alive. "Jake, you crazy bastard. I should have known you'd survive." "David, where are you?" "Outer Rim, near the spiral arm. I've got 30 ships and about 1,000 refugees. Been hitting Council supply lines for months. Heard your broadcast and figured it was time to coordinate." Jake felt hope growing. "How many survivors do you have contact with?" "Maybe 10,000 in this sector alone. All scattered, all fighting. The Council thinks they've won, but we've been growing stronger." Over the next week, more human groups made contact. The underground network was larger than anyone had imagined. Tens of thousands of humans had survived, hidden across the galaxy. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected source. The message arrived through diplomatic channels, heavily encrypted. Ryan broke the code and stared at the screen. "Jake, you're not going to believe this." The message was from Ambassador Thyclon of the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians had been loyal council members for decades. They provided much of the council's technology. Admiral Morrison, the translator, converted the aliens' words. "Your actions have created opportunities. We request a discreet meeting." Jake was suspicious. Could be a trap. Susan Mitchell, who had returned from a successful raid, shook her head. The Zephyrians were the first species conquered by the Kalani. Before the Council existed, they'd never forgotten. Maria checked the historical records. She's right. The Zephyrians lost their empire to the Kalani 300 years ago. They've been planning revenge ever since. Jake decided to take the risk. He met the Zephyrian ambassador on a neutral station, with Susan and 20 Marines for protection. Ambassador Thyclon was tall and pale, with large eyes that held ancient anger. He spoke carefully. "The Council plans to move against the human homeworlds next. Complete extermination. They want to make an example." "And you care why?" Jake asked. "Because after they finish with humans, we know who comes next. The Council needs someone to blame for their failures." Thyclon paused, then continued. "We can provide intelligence, fleet movements, defense codes. In exchange, you ensure Zephyrian independence when the Council falls." Jake looked at Susan, who nodded slightly. "Deal," Jake said. As they shook hands, Jake realized the war had entered a new phase. The Council's alliance was cracking apart. Now the real fighting would begin. New Geneva Station hung in space like a metal moon. It was the largest structure the Galactic Council had ever built. Their capital, their fortress, their last hope. Admiral Jake Morrison stared at it through his ship's viewport. Around him, the largest fleet in human history prepared for battle. 200 ships, humans, Valderi, Corvin, Zephyrians, and dozens of other species who had joined the rebellion. "Final count, sir," Lisa Wong reported. 212 ships ready for assault. Jake nodded. The station's defenses looked impossible. Energy shields covered its surface like glowing skin. Weapons platforms orbited it like deadly satellites. Inside those walls, the Council leaders waited. Admiral Chen Wei's voice came through the comm. "My fleet is in position on the far side. Ready when you are." Captain Susan Mitchell checked her readings. Zephyrian codes confirmed. Their intelligence was good. "We know where the shield generators are." Sith Kar's ship moved closer. "Valderi strike teams are ready to board. We have not forgotten what the Council did to our homeworld." Jake took a deep breath. This was it. The final battle. Win here, and the Council would fall. Lose, and the galaxy would never be free. All units, begin assault. The battle started with Zephyrian ships attacking their own allies. Council defenders turned in confusion as friendly ships opened fire. The rebellion had planned for this moment perfectly. Jake's ship dove toward the station's main dock. Around him, the fleet spread out, hitting different sections. Explosions lit space like deadly fireworks. The Council's response was fierce. Their ships were larger, better armed. But they were also confused and frightened. Some ships pulled back to defend themselves instead of the station. "Shield generator complex destroyed," reported Captain Mike Carter. "Section 4 is open." Jake ordered his best troops into the breach. The station's corridors were narrow, perfect for human fighting tactics. The Council had built their capital for defense against fleets, not boarding parties. The battle raged for 3 days. Jake led his troops through twisting passages, fighting room by room. The Council forces had training and equipment, but humans had desperation and rage. On the second day, they reached the Council chambers. The leaders of 7 remaining Council species had barricaded themselves inside. When the doors finally broke, Jake found them huddled around a conference table. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak of the Kalani stood first. He was enormous, with mandibles that could cut through metal. His eyes showed no fear. "Human," he said, "you have won a battle, but we are eternal. We have ruled for millennia." Jake stepped forward. His armor was scared, his rifle ready. Not anymore. Vorthak rushed him with surprising speed. His claws reached for Jake's throat. But Jake had fought too many battles, learned too many lessons. He dodged and fired in one smooth motion. The Supreme Chancellor fell. The other Council leaders surrendered immediately. Jake stood in the center of the chamber, breathing hard. Through the broken windows, he could see the fleet still fighting. But the heart of the Council was gone. "Sir," Susan's voice crackled through his radio. "The Kalani home fleet is withdrawing. The Nexari have surrendered. It's over." Jake nodded slowly. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had won. Admiral Chen Wei entered the chamber with a team of Marines. He looked around at the defeated Council leaders and smiled. "What now, Jake?" Jake thought about Earth, about the billions who had died, about the years of running and hiding, about all the species the Council had enslaved. "Now we build something better," he said. "A government that serves people, not the other way around." Outside, the shooting stopped. The siege was over. For the first time in years, the galaxy was silent. It was the sound of peace beginning. 6 months after the fall of New Geneva Station, Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from over 200 species filled the massive assembly hall they had built from the ruins of the Council's capital. His uniform was crisp and new, but the scars on his face told the story of the war. Behind him sat Captain Susan Mitchell, Admiral Chen Wei, and the other human commanders who had fought alongside him. The Valdari commander Sithkar coiled nearby, his scales reflecting the soft light. Jake looked out at the crowd. Former Council species sat next to former slaves. Old enemies worked together to write new laws. It was messy and loud and imperfect. It was democracy. "We gather today not as conquerors, but as liberators," Jake began. His voice carried to every corner of the hall. "The Galactic Council ruled through fear and force. We will build something different." A Nexari representative stood up. His species had been part of the Council until the very end. "Admiral Morrison, what guarantee do we have that humans won't become the next tyrants?" Jake smiled. It was a fair question. "Because we've learned what happens when any single species gains too much power. The Federation will have strict rules. No one species can control more than 20% of the military. Leadership will rotate between species every 5 years." The Corvin ambassador hissed her approval. "The Corvin people support this proposal. We have seen enough of empires." Dr. Maria Santos presented the psychological studies that had helped win the war. Each species brings unique strengths. Humans adapt quickly. Valdari are excellent at stealth and subterfuge. Zephyrians excel at technology. Together, We're stronger than any single species. Over the following days, the new government took shape. They called it the Galactic Federation. Unlike the Council, it was based on mutual cooperation, not conquest. Jake walked through the rebuilt sections of New Geneva. The station was being transformed from a symbol of oppression into a beacon of hope. Human engineers worked beside Zephyrian architects. Valderi farmers shared growing techniques with Corvin botanists. Ryan Burke met him in the Memorial Plaza. They had built it where the council chambers once stood. Simple stone markers listed the names of those who had died in the war. Billions of names from hundreds of worlds. The first Federation fleet is ready for launch, Ryan reported. Mixed crews, just like we planned. Jake nodded. The Federation fleet would protect trade routes and stop pirates. It would also make sure no one tried to restart the old ways. Lisa Wong joined them. She now served as the Federation's communications director. Admiral, we're getting reports from the Outer Rim. Some Council loyalists are causing trouble. Jake wasn't surprised. The war had ended, but peace was harder to build than victory. There would always be those who wanted the old system back. Send a message to all Federation worlds, he said. Any species that wants independence can have it. But any that attack others will face the full might of our combined fleets. That evening, Jake stood alone on an observation deck. Earth was visible in the distance, slowly healing from the war's damage. Reconstruction ships moved around it like mechanical bees, rebuilding what had been destroyed. Susan Mitchell found him there. Regrets. Jake shook his head. No, we did what we had to do. And now we prove that different species can work together. That strength comes from unity, not domination. They watched in comfortable silence as ships from a dozen different species docked at the station. Trade vessels, diplomatic ships, research vessels exploring together. The galaxy wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still problems to solve. But for the first time in centuries, there was hope. Jake thought about the future. Human children would grow up in a galaxy where they were partners, not conquerors or victims. Where differences were celebrated, not feared. It wouldn't be easy. Peace never was. But it would be worth it.